Hello, today we're going to take a look at week 6, lesson 2. In this lesson, we're combining everything that we've been learning to learn how to simplify expressions. So in this packet, we have a couple different sections that we're going to kind of breeze through, and then I want to spend more time on some of the more challenging questions. In section number 1, it's asking you use the product property. That's where you are multiplying your like bases. When you multiply your like bases, you are going to add your exponents. So in this case, 3 raised to the negative 4th power times 3 raised to the 2nd power is going to turn into 3 to the negative 4 plus 2. And negative 4 plus 2 is going to give us a negative 2. And as we've learned in previous lessons, negative exponents do not like where they're at. They move to the opposite side of the fraction bar and they become positive. So we're going to have 1 over 3 to the positive 2 as our final answer. We can see that that negative exponent went from the numerator, the top of the fraction bar, to the denominator, the bottom of the fraction bar, which means our answer to number 1 is C. The next section of review is asking us to use the quotient property. This is where we are dividing like terms, and that means that we are going to subtract those exponents. So if we take a look at the first problem in this section, it says 4 cubed over 4 to the 1st power. There's a little hidden 1 right there. We're going to subtract our exponents. So we've got 4 raised to the 3 minus 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. So we have 4 squared as our final answer. We have a positive exponent, so we can stop. Our answer is D. The next section is using the power property to simplify. So you can see that our first one is 2 squared. This one is actually completely simplified as is, and our answer is D. The second one is asking 2 to the 0th power, all raised to the 0th power. So we can solve it by multiplying those two together. 2 to the 0 times 0. Well, 0 times 0 is 0, so we have 2 to the 0th power. And as we know from previous lessons, anything to the 0th power is the number 1. So in this case, our answer to number 10 is C, 1. The power property, which is what this section is where we multiply our exponents together. That kind of takes us through our review section on how to solve these. On the last page, starting with number 13, you can see that our directions are asking us to combine both the product property and the quotient property. Our product property is where we add our exponents together because we're multiplying like bases. And our quotient property is where we subtract our exponents because we are dividing our like bases. So when we want to simplify these, we want to follow order of operations and we want to work on either side of the fraction bar completely first and do all of the product and quotient property before we deal with any negative exponents. So if I take a look at number 13, number 13 says 2 times 2 to the negative 3rd power all over 2. My first step is to work on top of the fraction bar. I'm going to work right here first. I have 2 times 2 to the negative third. When you don't have an exponent, there is technically a little hidden 1 right there. Because I am multiplying my like bases, I am going to add my exponents. So I have 2 to the 1 plus negative 3. And all of this is still over the number 2. Where I got that directly from my problem. Now I want to figure out what is 1 plus negative 3. That's going to give us negative 2. So I now have 2 to the negative second all over 2. As we remember from previous lessons, negative exponents do not like where they're at. They cannot exist. We move them to the opposite side of the fraction bar and they become positive. So this 2 to the negative 2 is going to come to the bottom here. And what we're going to have is 1 over our original 2, right, here, times, and now I'm moving this whole 2 to the negative 2, is going to become 2 to the positive 2. So you'll notice that I cannot get rid of the number that was already there. I had my 2 to the negative 2, that moved and became positive. And this 2 that was originally in the denominator from the start of the problem still has to be there. We cannot forget that it exists. That original 2 didn't have an exponent by it, but we know that means that there's a little hidden 1 there. So now we can go ahead and finish solving this problem where we have 1 over 2 to the 1 plus 2, which is going to turn into 1 over 2 cubed, which is going to give us our final answer, which is 1 over 2 cubed, or letter option D. I'm going to jump down to number 16. I am going to start with the numerator, the top of the fraction bar. I have 2 to the negative first power times 2 to the negative second power times 2 cubed. All of this is using the product property where I'm multiplying my like bases. That means I'm going to add those exponents, and I'm going to add all 3 exponents together. I have 2 raised to the negative 1 plus negative 2 plus 3. And all of this is over 2. Negative 1 plus negative 2 is going to give me negative 3. And negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So I have 2 to the 0th power all over 2. As we know from previous lessons, anything to the 0th power is the number 1. So our final answer is going to be 1 over 2. That fraction cannot be reduced or simplified, so it is our final answer, which we can see is letter C. If we jump to number 17, we can see that we don't always start with the numerator. Sometimes most of the math is in the denominator. We have 2 cubed over 2 times 2 cubed. Remember, there's a little hidden 1 as the exponent here. Now in this one, I don't have anything right now that I can do in the numerator. So I'm just going to rewrite it, 2 cubed. But I do have math to do in the denominator. 2 to the first power times 2 cubed turns into 2 to the 1 plus 3. My 2 cubed in the numerator is going to stay the same. 1 plus 3 is 4. So 2 to the 4th power. This now looks like the quotient property of exponents. Since I am dividing my like bases, it means I'm going to subtract those exponents. It's important that you always start with the top minus the bottom. So this is going to equal 2 to the 3 minus 4. When we take 3 minus 4, we get 2 to the negative 1st power. Negative exponents do not like where they're at. They go to the opposite side of the fraction bar and they become positive. So that 2 to the negative 1st power is going to become 2 to the 1st power. And we can't have nothing on top in the numerator here, so we put the number 1. So our final answer is 1/2, or letter